Hey guys, DMS here. Today we're talking about my favorite headphone DAC amp. Let's check it out. Now, after about 5 years of publishing reviews of headphones, DACs, and amps, calling something my absolute favorite, well, that's pretty high praise. Let's talk about this thing and what makes it special, starting off with the build. This is the FiO K9 Pro. It has an aluminum chassis, it's pretty heavy, and it is an all-in-one digital analog converter, headphone amplifier, and preamp. As far as inputs are concerned, you have Bluetooth, USB, coax, optical, and analog balanced and unbalanced inputs. You also have outputs for XLR on the back, as well as RCA on the back, if you want to use this as either just a DAC or as a preamp. On the front, we have headphone outputs, 6.3mm single-ended, 4.4mm balance, as well as 4-pin XLR balance with a nice little dust cover. We have this potentiometer here, which is very smooth, though it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet. And then we have our interface controls. So we have the output selector, headphone amp, preamp output, or just DAC line level output. We have high, medium, and low gain. We have an input selector and then a power switch. But wait, wasn't there also a power switch on the back? Well, there was. That's because you can flip this on and the switch on the front is really more of just a standby switch. The amp will stay here on and warm and ready to use. That way when you press the power button on the front, you don't have to wait for the amp to warm up. We also have a USB Type-C in on the side. It's nice for using something like a modern MacBook, a laptop, an iPad Pro, or anything with USB-C like a cell phone. Now, I do have a couple of complaints already about the front of this amplifier. One, the text is kind of hard to read unless you hold it at specific angles. Not a big fan of that. And two, the volume knob is not actually a directly connected potentiometer, it's a digital pot. So you can quickly move the volume knob and there's probably a half-second delay before the volume actually gets up to that level. Now, I haven't had any problems with channel imbalance, which is nice. That is the benefit of a digital pot, is the channels are pretty much always gonna be locked at the same volume. So no matter how low it gets, you're never gonna get left and right starting to become imbalanced. But that latency is a bit interesting if you quickly turn the volume knob up or down. Now, this volume knob is also illuminated. Luckily, it doesn't just have to be blue, it is an RGB volume knob, but you can't pick the colors. It can either be blue, off, or it can cycle between different colors. You can change this through the app where it connects to a phone via Bluetooth. That's also where you can access other features like what Bluetooth codecs you want to use, and this does support a lot of good codecs. There's also the very welcomed feature of having an equalizer you can bake into the amp. However, it only affects the Bluetooth input. FiO, you got so close. I wish that you could EQ this amplifier and it affect the USB input also. That would have been fantastic, but unfortunately it only affects the Bluetooth input. Maybe they'll change it with a software update, who knows. Now, we also have this little plate on top. It says THX Technology. This is not a sticker, this doesn't come off. It's a smooth, glossy piece of plastic that is built in to the aluminum chassis. And on a note of that, this is the first time that I've had a THX amp in that I really liked. If you know the channel well, you know that things like the THX AAA 789 really weren't to my taste. I did kinda like the THX AAA 1, but mostly because it was a great value. This doesn't quite feel like a THX amp, it feels better, and we'll talk about that in sound. One last thing to note, while this amp does get warm, it's not crazy warm. If your amp is getting warm, that is normal. So while it's just sitting here in standby, it is pretty much constantly generating heat. Now, before this, my favorite DAC was the Matrix Element M. Now, that's a $2,000 DAC, and I used that for close to a year as my daily driver. Before that, I was using the DCS Bartok, which is a $17,500, something in that price range DAC. This reminds me a lot of that. Now, granted, they are very different price points. They are different DACs, they're different amps, but the things this does well remind me so much of the things that did well. Normally, to me, THX amplifiers sound congested, tonally congested, especially in the highs. They're always very clean, they're always very detailed, but I feel like everything is just all forced together into one space, and it's just like a train line of detail straight into your ears. There's no space for it to breathe. And this kind of goes in the other direction. We still have all of that detail, we still have everything that I enjoy about the THX amps, but none of the things that I don't enjoy. It feels spacious, it feels smooth. And like the DCS Bartok that I listened to for a long time, it feels almost like the highs have a rolling sound to them. Not rolled off, not recessed, and still very fast, forward, and detailed, but not in a way that's painful, sibilant, or overly aggressive. This amp does a great job of taking things in my collection that normally would be sibilant and making them sound smooth, without recessing the highs. Which is so interesting because it's an extremely neutral amp, and I wouldn't by any means call it warm. It's just smooth. I personally think this amp pairs insanely well with things like the Sundara and pretty much any planar above that. Though, I also did really love it single-ended with the HD6XX. I feel like on the 6XX, even with worn pads, it really brought out the highs and gave the bass more punch than I'm used to on other amplifiers. But it still doesn't sound colored. It sounds more like it's just filling in the gaps in places where headphones are missing things. Now, as far as power goes, this doesn't have the most power out there. It's plenty powerful enough for the vast majority of headphones in most people's collections. You're not going to power something like an HE6 on this, but I think this is more than enough power for things like my Aeon Noir, my Focals, my HD800S, my HD6XX, 650 Sundara, the 600 ohm Bears, or even my Dianas. Though if you're the kind of person that likes to listen at ear-shattering volumes and you have a Diana, you'll probably want something with a little bit more juice. I think if you listen at any normal or above average hearing levels, you're gonna be fine. This definitely gets far louder than I would ever be comfortable putting sound into my ears. Now that is a lot of positive things to say about a DAC amp. And it's not perfect, but I really feel like this isn't sacrificing anywhere that it really needs to. I feel like this is actually comfortably an all-in-one, no compromise solution. And it has room for scalability. I can use this with another DAC. I can use this as the DAC. I can use it with all kinds of setups. I mean, I guess the only limitation is I'm not gonna be like putting it in my backpack and carrying it around to use on a train or something, but FiiO really nailed this. And it's going to take something really crazy to take this thing's place on my desk. Because right after this video is finished, that's where it's going, right back on my desk, next to my computer that I use every single day. Because of all the things in my collection, this is what I want to be listening to. So there you go, glowing review, FiiO K9 Pro. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. I'm going to be adding this to a recommendations list soon, which by the way, I really need to rework my headphones recommendations list. I know it's a little bit outdated. That's coming soon, as well as some other really exciting changes. I've been waiting to tell you guys about these for months, so I think we're about 3-4 weeks away from where I can tell you guys what's going on. Lots of exciting content though between now and then, and I think that's going to wrap this video up. Quick one, I know, but amps, there's not really a lot you can say about them besides how they sound, what the features are, and do you like them. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, please leave a like down below, a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community, you can at forum.hifiguides.com. And as always, don't forget to stick around, subscribe for more videos like this. Till the next one, guys. Peace.